Ciao ragazzi, this is Katie Portanova, and you're listening to Florence and Me. I'm a lover of stories and all things Italian, and I'm going to bring you all that in this podcast. My intention is to inspire you to step out of your comfort zone and explore life and travel the world. Join me as I tell you my story and many others about Italy and my love, Florence. Andiamo! Ciao! Katie is back. Episode number 4. And this one I call Taking the Leap. So I left off in a very emotional manner in my episode 3. I listened to that just now and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I was really proving my point of following your heart and not settling on what society tells you. And yeah, I sounded really upset, and I was very passionate. I think I'll leave it at that. I was very passionate in the moment. And again, like I said, I think in the first episode or even this past one, I do not edit these. I kind of let them just flow. Stefano told me I should take longer breaks. So in case I need to, cut a part out. So I'm going to try to do that. Actually, I'm going to call in myself from almost 10 years ago, when I was teaching English in Florence. And I spoke like this in English for my students. I'll tell that story soon, but let's go back to where I left off, where it was 2008. I had just come back after a horrible breakup with my first love, and me trying to find a way to get back to Italy and live there permanently. And I believe I told you in the last episode, yes, I told you that I, decided to go through the British route because my mom was born in England, and it seemed like the right way to go. And I felt it in my bones. I felt it in my heart and it ended up being quite easy. I'll just recap for those of you that maybe are just listening to this one and maybe didn't listen to the third episode. I had applied for British citizenship in January of 2009, I believe. Again, I don't have all of the facts in front of me, but from what I remember, that is when I applied. I applied for that, and by, I believe, March, I got a notice that said, congrats, you're going to be a British citizen. And I freaked out. It was probably the best news I had ever gotten on my quest to be an Italian resident. So by May, I was downtown Chicago at the consulate, the British consulate in Chicago, and I was sworn in. Got my passport a few weeks later, and I bought my ticket, left to live my life, my new life in Florence in July of 2009. And yeah, and this is where this episode's going to start. So people ask me, when I first moved over there, from back home, like, how did I find a place to live? So back then I was in contact with a lot of expats, and I was also in contact with a lot of Italians. So I forget exactly how I met Marco, but Marco became my roommate for almost 4.5 years. And he was moving back to Italy from London because he was, or from England, somewhere in England. He had lost his job and he was moving back, and somehow we got connected. Again, it totally escapes my mind how we got connected initially. So he found an apartment and he needed a roommate, and it just happened that we were still talking, and there you go. We became roommates. When I arrived, I do not remember if he picked me up or if I took a taxi to the apartment. I'm thinking right now, I do not remember. Yep, I don't remember. I don't remember how it panned out. I do remember settling into the apartment. It was the cutest apartment. Oh my God. I had my own little terrace. We had a little backyard. It was, a whole building was owned by a family, and we rented the middle apartment. The son, horrible son, rented the top, and nobody was living in the bottom, the basement apartment. That apartment was the beginning of my life in Florence, and I will never forget it. I will never forget all the times I ate chickpeas while Marco had a really big bowl of pasta because I couldn't afford and I didn't want to spend money on that. So I really was frugal the first few months I was there because I wasn't making any money. But leading into why I wasn't making money, I actually got a job through Marco again, very kind man, dear friend. He found me a job teaching English in Prato, which is about probably 45-minute train ride from Florence. I don't remember. I think it was 30 minutes. And he was also working through this nonprofit as well. So, but what happened is like, I started working, I believe it was probably towards the end of August for this nonprofit. And what I was doing is I was teaching these young adults. They were out of high school. Some of them were, they were probably early to mid 20s. Some of them had they were a little slow. They had some, just problems learning. And there was a majority of them that were Chinese. So they were immigrants. They were expats, but immigrants because their parents had moved. There's a big Chinese community in Florence and in Prato. There's a big Chinese, immigration community where they kind of stay in kind of like their own Chinatown. If you go to any other big city, you have like a neighborhood of Chinese people. So I taught them English for 6 months. I think I was there twice a week, but the catch was, which I didn't know, that I wasn't going to be paid until the end of the 6 months. I did not know this going in. I thought it was going to be monthly, just like every other Italian gets paid monthly. I freaked out by mid-November because I was running out of cash. I was running out of money. I was going through my savings really quickly, taking money out. I was not using my credit card because that would have been just way too much for the exchange rate and stuff. So I was really, really, really just watching my pennies. I had by this time, I believe, my friend Laura, who I didn't talk about in the last episode, but I became friends with her in 2008, and my other best friend, Manon, who is French, in 2008. And I forgot to mention, I did live in an apartment for like 2 weeks with Manon, and that's how I met her in 2008, probably in the summer, sometime in the summer. And and so Laura was very helpful. She's American, but her dad is from Naples, so and to this day, she still lives in Florence with her husband and 2 beautiful babies. She helped me a lot the first year I was there, because I was struggling for cash left and right. She took me out. She took me out for drinks. She took me out for meals because she was working at a tour agency in Florence, one of the biggest ones, the Walking Tours of Florence. If you've ever used that, she was there for a good amount of years, not too long. But yeah, I really leaned in on the friends that I had met that were still living in Florence during this time because I did not want to call my parents and tell them I'm out of money. I didn't want help. You know, I was a firm believer on I'm going to figure this out. It's just the first few months. I can do this. I can pay my rent. I mean, thankfully, Marco, I think, did help me out on the rent once or twice and gave me a little bit of money just to put towards my side of the rent. But it was hard. It was really hard. I learned a lot about myself and about what you can achieve when you really put your mind to it. And I'm going to keep continuing with Marco because Marco helped me with a lot of necessities when I first moved there. Because since I wanted to become a resident, and I could because I had a British passport, I had to do a series of bureaucratic things. So the first thing you must do when you arrive in an Italian city and you're planning on becoming a resident is to get a codice fiscale, which is similar to a social security number, but not exactly. It is the number that they use for your income. I don't know exactly what else they use it for, but I remember giving it to people for when I was trying to find a job. I don't know if they actually used it because I don't know. It's really vague. I should know more about that. I could ask Stefano to come on to an episode and he can explain it to me, but it's similar to a social security number. Anyway, so I had to go to the Agenzia delle Entrate and apply for this number. It's basically a number made up of your first and last name and then a bunch of other numbers. Yeah, so Marco helped me do that. He went to the appointment with me, just so in case I didn't understand anything, but I did. I understood it all. I was aware. Other than for business purposes, your codice fiscale is just there. It's just one step into getting a bank account, your residency, and all that other stuff. It's just that was the way to do it. That is the way to do it, at least right now, I think, still. After that, this all happened within the first few months because I needed these things. When I got my first paycheck from this nonprofit that I worked in Prato, I needed to deposit this money because it was a check. I didn't have a bank account. So Marco helped me, I think. I might have done this myself. No, I did this myself. Excuse me. He helped me with something else. I did this myself. So I went to Monte dei Paschi, which is one of the oldest churches in the world, and one of the branches near my house, and I opened a bank account, but it was a different type of bank account. It was one of those bank accounts that it seems like it was for foreigners because it wasn't like a full-fledged bank account. They have so many different types of bank accounts in Italy. It's incredible. So, and I'll get to this, but I had another bank account. I had 3 different bank accounts the whole time I lived in Italy. It was crazy. So in order to deposit this check, I had to have a bank account. So I was able to figure that out. I did that myself. I got my card. There was a whole pin. I had oh my God, it came with this little device that you would hit this button and that would be your pin. So when you would log in on the internet, that was the pin you used to get into your account. It was like really, there was a lot of steps. But I was very proud of myself for doing that because I did that myself. And yeah, so that was my first bank account, not my last. Another thing that I learned though is if you get paid by somebody, in Italy, it's different. So I'm just remembering this now. I believe one of the checks that they paid me through this nonprofit, I had to go to her bank to cash it. I know, it sounds really weird, but I had to go to her bank. Thankfully, it wasn't too far from where I was, but I still had to take a bus to get there and to cash it because I couldn't, for some reason, with the bank account I had at Monte dei Paschi, I couldn't deposit that check because I didn't have the capabilities. I don't remember. I just remember being pissed because I needed this cash to pay rent, to pay my bills, and it was a pain. It was a pain. My friend Sophie came with me to do that one of the times, I remember. So once I had my bank account, I was like, all right, I'm set, great, perfect, this is awesome. I then had to go through applying for residency. Okay, so to apply for residency, I believe I started this process. I had to go to the comune and ask how to do it. And then they sent me to the Anagrafe, which is another office for foreigners, for immigrants, for expats, to go to apply for residency and then like to get your residency papers and stuff and whatever. So I believe I started that in January of 2010. Because by then I had finished with the nonprofit in Prato, thank God, because I was sick of going on the train. It was just, I was only there for like an hour and a half, but then I had to wait for another train to go back. Thankfully, I lived in Statuto. Statuto is another neighborhood more towards the north west of the city center, Florence. Very cute. I would live there again. I love that area. But yeah, so it wasn't bad. I didn't have to go all the way to Santa Maria Novella, the main train station. I could go to the Statuto and I could just walk to my apartment. It was perfect. But I was glad to be done. The next job I fell into, because I was, crazy all through January, by the end of those 6 months, like I was just applying to every English teacher job I found on, their, job websites. And the one I found was Wall Street English. Wall Street English is an from England, an England-based English school based out of London, but they have a lot of branches all over Europe. So if you ever try to become an English teacher, you probably ran across Wall Street English. I met a very nice man who was from the States. He had married an Italian woman. He was working there. That job lasted a month. February. It was February. It lasted just the month of February. I had to take the train. You might think, oh, like, why did you quit? It wasn't in Florence. No, there was a branch in Florence, but they weren't looking. I found an opening in Livorno. Livorno is on the seaside. It took me an hour and a half by train to get there. And what time did I have to be there? Yeah, 5 p.m. Okay. I didn't finish until about 9. And then I didn't get home until about 11. If my mind serves me right. So it was a shitty job. I liked the people I taught. They were very nice, but the way the methodology of teaching English there was very, very strict. You had to teach it a certain way. There was all these modules you had to do, and I like just having conversation. And there were one day of each week I had like a group of students, probably like 12 or 15 students, that we would just talk. But yeah, it wasn't for me. I remember coming back on the train really late one night. I was by myself in the train car. There's nobody else there. I had my cell phone. I didn't feel unsafe. I want to point that out. But I was crying. I was upset because I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm not making any money. I made shit money there too. They were paying like €10, and they would only pay me €10 if I had a student for the hour. And €10 is like not even $20 an hour. Okay, so it was hard. It was really hard. So when I let that go, I had fallen into another job, which became one of my favorite jobs because I met so many amazing guys through this job. So through a different school they were working with the Carabinieri, the Maresciallo school in Florence. Now, Maresciallo is like type of like rank in the military, and the Carabinieri is another type of police in Italy. There's the municipal police where you see on the streets and the piazzas, and they wear like the hats, and they have like a light blue shirt, dark blue pants. And then the Carabinieri, which if you know the difference, you know what I'm talking about. Because the Carabinieri always look divine in their outfits. Outfits, I shouldn't say that. Their uniforms. And they're always mostly very attractive. That's what I remember when I learned what Carabinieris were. I'm like, oh my God. And then I looked at them. Every time I saw a Carabinieri, I'm like, oh my God, they're to die for. They're gorgeous. Anyway, they're a type of military police. They're a higher rank than the municipal police, where you see them, like, they're the ones that everybody asks them questions. The tourists always ask the policemen questions near the Duomo. Those are the municipal police. Anyway, so I got a really kick-ass job. They were paying for the month of March is when I started. They were paying €1,200 for the month. And there were a group of us that were English teachers, and there was a whole bunch of Carabinieri at this Maresciallo school right on the edge of the Arno. There's this big palazzo, big fort, if you will. And that's where they all lived. And it was kind of like their little, like, they had like a university type program for them to become a Carabinieri or a Maresciallo. And a Maresciallo then can go be shipped all over Italy and be like the head of the Carabinieri in a specific town. For example, like a chief. Oh, I'll put it that way, like a chief of police, chief of Carabinieri. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I remember the guys telling me. Like, I don't know exactly. They might be doing other things. So the class size in the month of March was probably closer to 25, almost 30 of these very gorgeous men. I'm just going to say it. They were gorgeous. Most of them were from Naples, Sicily, a couple from Sardinia. And then there were like around like central Italy, some of them. But the reason why, like, I found out a lot about more culture and more reasons why these men decided to become Carabinieri, because the pay is amazing. Like, the government gets paid to be part of the government. You get paid a shitload of money. So, and to even do the school, think about going to university and getting paid. These guys were getting paid to go to school. Okay. They were in school for 2 months, 2 or 3 months, or maybe a year. Anyway, they got freaking paid, and they just had to go to school. Okay, imagine getting paid when you're in university. Can't imagine. So the month of March was a really special month because it was my birthday month. It's my birthday month. So the guys found out that it was my birthday, and they got me a traditional Sicilian cassata. It's like a little, like, really, really sugary cake for my birthday. And I just loved them all. Like, they were just really, some of them are really into learning English. Giuseppe, who I'm still friends with. And then there were others that just wanted to fuck around and they just really could care less. And they just saw a pretty girl in the front and they just wanted to, try their moves on me, which a lot of them did. But it was really fun. Like, it was just fun. Yeah, so Giuseppe is one of the students that he would always be the one that told all the guys to be quiet. He was in the front of the class. He really wanted to learn English, and he respected me a lot. I'm not saying all of them did. They all did. But he was really angry when they would be all like rowdy and saying things in dialect. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know what you're saying. Especially in Napolitano and Neapolitan, I did not understand half the things they said, but they explained it to me. They were very nice. I was curious. Why not? You want to learn new things? Be curious. Ask questions. So, yeah. So that was a really great experience. I met a bunch of really cool girls that were teaching. I no longer talk to any of them, but if they ever hear this, Nina, Lucy, I forget the guy's name. There's a male teacher. Anyway, we had fun. For damn straight, we did. And then the second month, April, I had a new group of guys. Taught a whole new group of carabinieri. They were a different group. I didn't like them as much. They were kind of, I don't know. They didn't really want to get to know me, and it was different than the first month. So I did that, got paid $1,200 each month. And by that time, I had found London school. And that became my job for the next 3.5 years until I moved back. And guys, I'm just saying that the synchronicity, if that's the word, but like the pattern and the flow of how I went from one job to the next, it was incredible. Like the universe knew my drive. The universe knew that I wanted to keep working and finding my way. And in the middle of all this, I ended up getting my residency. I believe I went from, I believe it was in April. I had to go to an appointment at the Anagrafe, and it wasn't far from where I was teaching at the Maresciallo school. And it was really easy. That's when I realized the universe was like, shit, you already got this. You don't, like, I really thought I had all the paperwork. I had everything I needed. And all I needed to do from there on out is to get my carta di identità, my ID card, which is a paper card. It looks really flimsy, but it was like gold to have that. But that I will always remember that meeting in the Anagrafe because I understood everything. It flowed amazingly. The woman was very nice, and it was quick. I walked out of there going, "Oh my God, I'm a resident. I'm a legal Florentine resident. I did this on my own. I figured it out on my own. I jumped through all the hoops. I did this. I believe on my bike on the ride on the way back to the Maresciallo school, I was crying. I was like, I couldn't believe I did this because there were so many roadblocks. The people saying, "What are you doing?" Or like, "How can you do this?" Like, I didn't let it stray me from my path. And I'm just in awe just thinking about it right now. I mean, I was just looking at my carta d'identità now, and it is now expired. But Stefano reassured me, is like, when we do move back and live there, we just do the whole process over again, and we get to do it together. So it's kind of bittersweet that, I did it on my own, and I know that we're going to be back in Italy somewhere, probably Puglia, because Puglia is amazing. But back to when I started at London School. London School was, I thought at first, was very hard. Because I said yes to everything. I said, yeah, whenever Linda was the owner of the school, she was English. She gave me all these opportunities. I kept saying, yes, yes, yes. I was only making €10 an hour. So I had to work a lot to make €1,000 for the month. It was hard. It was really hard. I'm gonna stop the episode here because I feel like there's so much more to talk about with my residency and stuff. And I might do something completely different for the next episode because I don't want to bore. Well, if you're listening, you're interested in my story, but I feel like sometimes you want a little tidbit here and there. So I might, break it up a little bit, my story. So I just want to still reiterate the fact that when you know what you want to do in life, where you want to go, where you want to live, nothing can stop you. It is your drive, your passion, your determination that shows you the way. And then the universe just delivers because you've been putting it out there for over 10 years, more than maybe, more than that. Like the universe still knows that I need to go back to Italy. It knows. It's going to deliver. When the time is right, it will deliver. And that's why I created these cultural travel experiences under my new name, trulyitaly.tours. Go there if you're interested in learning about what I'm preparing. That's what's really exciting me now, to show people a part of Italy that you can't see on a tour bus, you can't see on a train, you can't see, in a big group of people, intimate groups of people who want to learn, grow, and understand the culture of Italy. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it with my friends, my friend Massi, my friend Lorenzo and Manila, my friend Valentina, my friend Filippo. I'm going to show you it all. Good places to eat, stories about Florence, stories about the architecture, stories about the people that built the Duomo. There's just so much more than just the numbers and the years. Very important. But there's just so much more that I want to share with you. And my heart is in it for the long haul because my heart's still in Florence. My heart is still in those cobblestones. My heart is still in Santi Apostoli, my favorite church. So as I start to get more emotional because I really miss Florence and because we're in a pandemic and I want to get out of my house and I hate cold weather and I want to see the Tuscan Hills. I want to see the Duomo. I want to see the Ponte Vecchio. I want to see Puglia. I push you. I want to push you to the limit of what you already know. Take the leap. Take the leap. What do you have to lose? Take the leap and know that the net will appear. Because your passion, your love for whatever it is that you want to do will come to fruition. Because you are believing in it, creating it, and sharing it with the world. Whatever that is. Thank you so much for listening. Go to my website, Travel Italy, yes. trulyitaly.tours. See you next time. I am beyond grateful for you listening to my podcast right now. I am so excited to share my journey of living abroad and all of my stories of Florence and Italy and all the places in between that I've visited. If this has reached you in any way and you would like to continue, please subscribe now. Also, go check out my website, trulyitaly.tours, for all my travel experiences. Ci si vede. Ciao.